It's time to hear from our first innovation sponsor. I'm really pleased to welcome Lisa Grace and Abby Mooley on behalf of Nemi Mobility Solutions. Nemi makes public transport in low-density areas feasible by providing a software solution that enables flexible bus services. Lisa is Nemi's CMO and leads their marketing efforts and business development in the UK, Ireland, and Nordics. A firm believer in inclusivity, Lisa is passionate about ensuring that public transport is an affordable and accessible form of mobility for all. Abby is Nemi's R&D project manager and leads innovation projects from proposal to execution. She's dedicated to uncovering customer pain points to help create a more efficient, useful, and usable sustainable mobility future. Giovanni Tokarski will be joining Lisa and Abby for the roundtable sessions later on. In the meantime, Lisa and Abby are going to explain how a hybrid approach to DRT can significantly improve the mobility of inhabitants in rural and in peri-urban areas. And to help demonstrate this, they're also going to showcase a number of case studies from their home region in northeastern Spain.
Okay, good morning everybody. Just to clarify that actually my home region is actually Manchester. Nemi's home region is northeastern Spain in Barcelona. So it's my absolute pleasure to be here this morning on home turf, so to speak. And what we will do, as Mark kindly introduced, is over the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes in fact we have, is explain our solution. I'm going to explain a little bit about who we are, what our journey has been so far, what our on-demand transport model is, how we work. I'm going to be touching on many points, in fact, Katie, of what you've raised about inclusivity. I've been noting down some of your stats here, your 3.3 million and your 44%. So it was very interesting to hear all that because I think it's all going to link together here. Clearly, we can't solve all transport issues today. We would love to, but we do think we have a solution that is slightly different from what some of you may have seen, and we do think it's particularly relevant for inclusivity and especially in rural areas. So without further ado, I shall skip to my first slide. So the topic for today is flexible bus lines, so taking a hybrid approach. So I'll tell you more about what I mean by a hybrid approach in a moment. And I think the key points today, what we want to link into is looking at demand responsive transport as a way to maximise aggregation and resource allocation. Okay, because DRT is a complex world. It's a huge spectrum. But what I also feel is that often we forget that resources are limited. So resources are vehicles and drivers, and we need to often make the most of what we have. So get more out of our existing resources. So that's going to be the topic for today. As Mark very kindly introduced, there's three of us today. So I myself, Lisa Grace, so another acronym. So CMO is Chief Marketing Officer. I got one of your acronyms, Katie, which is the TRSE. Yeah. So it's Transport Risk Social Exclusion. I love that one. I've noted that. I'm going to be using that one. So that's myself. I'm going to be joined on stage by Abby, who, as Mark introduced, as R&D project manager, and our colleague Giovanni is going to be hosting the roundtables with us. So that's three of us today. However, we are a small representation of our team. This is the whole team here at Nemi. We finally had our professional photos taken a month ago, so this is the first time actually I've used this photo, so I am delighted. We are a startup, basically born out of a USPA, there we go, another acronym, a USPA funded, so it's a European Space Agency funded project 2018, funded within a lab environment, who were looking for a solution, a public transport based solution for demand responsive. Okay, so that will explain a little bit about where our model came from and where our kind of background is. So basically solution design, the first pilots run for the metropolitan area of Barcelona. That was back in 2018. We then launched more, so 2019, first commercial services launched in 2020, which was when Nemi was founded. Of course, in the midst of a pandemic, so we're talking this was the first commercial services launched in July 2020. And now let's skip forward to 2024. We have a team of 22 in-house software developers, marketing, R&D and sales team, and we're currently the market leader for on-demand transport in Spain. At the moment, we have got more than 50 active services. As you can see, there's a cluster around northeastern Spain, where our head office is based. That's kind of on our home turf for Nemi. We've got other services in and around Spain. This is a typical map that is constantly out of date. We've just got some more services launching this month, so we'll have to update again in the north of Spain. But in any case, we can see we're expanding across Europe, and these services in the UK are actually digital services in North Cambridgeshire. Okay. So a really brief introduction to what our platform is. I'm sure most people are very familiar with DRT. So it's a user app, a driver app, and a back office. So I'm not going to dwell too much on that because I want to save more time to look specifically at our solution.
Nemi is a digital platform for managing demand-responsive bus services. We design optimal mobility solutions, connecting people and places in a smarter, more efficient and sustainable way. As an on-demand transport platform, our passengers can book a service on our app and then follow where the bus is in real time. Nemi optimizes the route to serve only the stops that are requested, thus saving on kilometers travelled and reducing emissions. At Nemi, we operate with 3 different platforms. Users benefit from our app, designed to be as accessible and user-friendly as possible. Meanwhile, the bus driver can easily see which passengers they have to pick up and the route they need to take using the driver app. Finally, our back office platform allows the operator to access crucial passenger and vehicle data. Our offering enables public authorities and transport operators to optimize the services they provide. Services become more cost-effective, operators gain access to improved data, and passenger experience and safety is enhanced. Our aim is to optimize public transport, and our talented team works hard every day to make that a reality. Currently, we have active services across Spain and in the UK, and are expanding across Europe. Find out more about what we do at nemi.mobi.
Okay, so just a second, you'll recognise that voice later because it's actually Abby's voice when she comes on stage. Okay, so that's a very brief overview to our model. I'm going to kind of almost go over a little bit about what Katie was talking about earlier. So we've got 2 scenarios here. So the scenario on the left is kind of focusing on the transport issues in areas of low demand. So transport issues in rural areas or peri-urban areas. Okay, so what we often have, we could have very few departures. A typical rural bus that might have maybe 2 or 3 buses a day. That doesn't necessarily fit well with what my plans are. Very limited coverage, long travel times because I literally have to go all around the houses to get to where I want to go to. And what this creates is a very kind of low or scarce demand, and actually feeds back in because the lower the demand, the risk we have of losing a local bus service, etc. These 2 boxes down here, I'm not going to go because I think it's all what Katie said earlier. It's about the effect that has on socioeconomic activity, the effect it has on social exclusion. I always put the example of, I don't know, for example, somebody who's going for a part-time job to work in a restaurant to do the evening shift from 7 till 11. Okay, that's a 4-hour shift. Isn't going to warrant me buying my own private vehicle. I need to get there on public transport. The last bus leaves at 10:30. I go for the interview, fabulous, I get offered the job, but I can't accept the job because I can't get there. So multiple examples of that. That, in fact, is our daily life at Nemi. Whenever we go to events, stories of, teenage children who can't get to that further education or higher education opportunity because there's no public transport bus and the parents can't be running backwards and forwards around as a taxi service. So I think we've got multiple examples of here of what the effects, the knock-on effects of that is. So flip to the other side of the screen, and what we hope to do, or the philosophy of demand responsive transport, is to actually look at making the offer more attractive, more flexible, look at optimizing routes, creating shorter routes, more direct routes, reducing travel times, and actually creating more schedules, more departures. Okay, I could even look at including points or villages on my route that aren't normally included. So even if somebody is just picking up that spot, maybe on a Tuesday and a Thursday, it doesn't matter because it's on demand, which means it can actually go there. It's not going to have an impact on everybody else. The idea here is that we can look to grow demand, to kind of restart some of the rural areas. I put here reduction of operational deficit. It's not necessarily about that. It's more about actually offering a quality bus service to everybody. Just because I live in the sticks doesn't mean to say, oh, well, that's your fault for living in the sticks. Of course you've got rubbish. Of course you've got a rubbish. No. I should have the same rights wherever I live, right? So there's no reason why I should be suffering and not be able to get myself from A to B independently just because I live where I choose to live. So that's a little bit about that. I'm going to really briefly, I don't know if you can see that. This is what we call the DRT spectrum. Okay, so DRT is a complex world. Two axes here. One is the flexibility for the user, and the other is the power to aggregate. Okay, so of course we've got up at the top left we've got taxi service. Okay, so a taxi service is looking for it was offering maximum flexibility to users, but obviously has limited power to aggregate. In fact, it's a private trip, right? And on the other side, we've got public transport. So mass public transport with huge power to aggregate, but obviously it's not flexible because we're running on it on just pre-established timetables, pre-established routes, etc. So the Nemi model will be sitting here, what I've called a semi-flex. Okay, so a semi-flex would be, I don't know if you're familiar with the term semi-flex, or if we have our acronyms and our little kind of phrases. Okay, so a semi-flex would be based on fixed stops, okay, within a specific area. But what we do is we look to flexibilize a route. So a fixed departure point with fixed stops, but we flexibilize the routes, we flexibilize the stops by which the bus passes, okay? So what effectively we're looking to do is optimize routes, still maintain the element of aggregation that we believe we need for cost efficiency, okay? And I think that this, from our experience, this tends to work in areas of mid to low demand, and also in small zones, okay? Small zones whereby that aggregation doesn't have a detrimental effect on the other people who are reserving further down the line. Okay, so it's about kind of like it's a mix. It's getting the balance. Okay, so I think that I'm going to touch a little bit now about what Katie was saying about technology. Okay, so I think that now we have technology. We can track everything. We can travel here, now, wherever we want, to wherever we want. But is that necessary? I don't know, do we actually need so much technology? Or is it technology for technology's sake that actually could have a detrimental effect to the operational efficiency, the cost efficiency, and also the user experience? So maybe a more simplified approach may be the best one, or the optimal one, to actually provide reliability. Okay, because if you have an unlimited number of vehicles and drivers, and you have a full flex DRT, well, that's fine because you can be zipping here, there, and everywhere. But if you don't have 50 vehicles, if you just have a limited number of vehicles and drivers, then you need to think about how you're going to use those properly. Okay, so the Nemi model is more of a semi-rigid model in that yes, we can accept real-time reservations as long as they do not have an effect on the reservations already made. And this model basically is focused on pre-booking. So a pre-book service will then allow for better planning and operational efficiency of how we organise the route, okay? So I'm going to continue before I end up running out of time. So our solution is what we call a semi-flex, and the hybrid element would also include having a fixed route which is put on demand in the evenings, excuse me, paid on demand in the evenings or at certain times of the day, or it could be a tourist area where, for example, it could be depending on the tourist season, etc. So that's what we mean when we talk about hybrid. I wanted to highlight a couple of case studies we've got at the moment. So this one is Cançonya. So it's an area which is it's just to the west of Barcelona. It's a peri-urban area. It's a village or a small town, about 27,000. This is a route that we took actually from one of our full flex competitors early last year. So so January 2023. It's a small town that has a train station that has a direct link into Barcelona. Okay, but it's a hilly, kind of mountainous urbanization that kind of runs up. I've been there a couple of times and I always get car sick because it's so windy and so kind of like, so it's an area that has an older population, okay? So what we did was we took the route and we changed it from a full flex to a semi-flex, okay? Full flex to a semi-flex with no change in terms of pickup times, in terms of delays on waiting, and what we've got at the moment is 69% app bookings. We're going to talk about accessibility on app bookings later with Abby. We're connecting 27,000 and we've got 12 passengers per hour aggregating. We've got 10 departure times. Okay, so we managed to aggregate on a 16-seater 12 people per hour. The other one is a service that we've got running in the northern hills of Madrid. Okay, so you would think, Madrid, big city. Yeah. Okay, so the problem is with Madrid is that in the north, everything connects down into the city. So it's all kind of running down. But the villages themselves are not connected between each other. Okay, so this again was when we took in October 2022. We also took this from another competitor. This one is run by taxis. Okay, so we've got, it's an area of 1,250 square kilometres. And the average journey distance, I think, is 26 kilometres, okay? So it's a huge expanse. There's 40 villages, hamlets, literally small villages of maybe 40 or 50 people, okay? So it's extremely rural. And the public transport options for people are not feasible. There are so many connections to actually move across between the villages. So the local government has actually carried on with their taxi service, passed it over to Nemi, and at the moment we are aggregating. There are 18, it runs from 6 in the morning till midnight, so we're aggregating about 8.5 people per hour. So that's another example of our rural DRT. I'm going to hand over to Abby. She's going to talk about, we're going to talk about accessibility. So I've got my numbers here. So the 3.3 million risk of social exclusion that Katie was talking about before. The figure that really did surprise me was the 44% people at risk of transport social exclusion, which just seems actually quite alarming. Yeah. Yeah, so I've kind of got that highlighted here. So that's, we were running a pilot we started last September in a place called Vilafranca. It's the hometown of Cava, just on the outskirts of Barcelona. And prior to launching, it's a town of 40,000. 80% of all of the users of public transport are age 65 plus, so we knew we had an issue. We ran a little workshop with them. Here's one of our colleagues, Jalma, in the workshop. We ran a workshop. What we did find is that, so we had 65 to 75 and 75 plus. A huge difference in those two age bands. Okay, so 65 to 75 were fairly au fait with technology and quite happy downloading, booking out. The 75 plus, a bit like you said about your parents, Katie, no way they were going to download an app. But one thing everybody did have in common, maybe in a way thanks to the pandemic, was the use of WhatsApp. Culturally, I know that WhatsApp is much bigger in Spain than in UK and other countries, but that was the one thing everybody had in common. So we talked to our Chief Technology Officer, and he came up with a WhatsApp bot, which Abby is going to introduce you now. So I'll hand the floor to Abby.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. So yeah, absolutely. So just to take you through very quickly again, our Vilafranca service, the vast majority of people aged over 65, and we have completed training sessions with people here, as mentioned, is our colleague Jaume, completing one, to ensure that people are able to use our application. But we really felt that that wasn't enough, that we needed to figure out how people were using our app in real life and how the service was actually working. And as Katie mentioned this morning, it's about people at the end of the day. They're our biggest asset. So yeah, we went on the bus and we completed in-depth user interviews with people. And the percentage that weren't comfortable using applications were indeed comfortable using WhatsApp as their major form of communication. So I think something that's really important to note, building again on the point by Katie and Lisa, is that our technological solution is not designed to necessarily replace, it's designed to enhance. So we're providing more options for people rather than taking away the options that they already have. So our WhatsApp bot is designed to help people book a service as easily and quickly as possible in just a few messages. I have a little pointer here. Let's see if it... Oh, there was something there. Never mind, it's okay. You'll just have to imagine it. So the first step for our WhatsApp bot is you sign up, very easy, simple process, and agree that you'll be chatting with a bot. You don't need to input any other personal information at this stage. Then you choose the area that you'd like to travel in. Here is a drop-down list of the areas available. That can be changed at any time. Then you choose whether you'd like to show the bookings that you've already made or choose a new booking. Once you've selected new booking, you can see a drop-down list just on the left-hand side here of all the stops, including the numbers of the stops. Then you simply have to write in the number or the name of your origin and destination stops to make the booking. Once you've chosen the time you wish to travel and the day, then your booking is confirmed. So you can see, the microphone's over here. You can see just in the middle, the user is choosing that they'd like to travel tomorrow and that they'd like to travel between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. So it's that simple. The booking is confirmed, all the details are visible, and the user will be updated as to when the bus will actually arrive. It's also extremely simple to cancel and view your bookings as well. So our core aim for this WhatsApp bot was to make it as user-friendly and simple as possible, not just for people who might not be so confident with digital technology, but also for one-time users, say tourists or people who might not want to download an app, but it would be quite easy and simple to simply write a few messages to a WhatsApp bot and book that way. So that's a little introduction to Nemi. I'm going to hand over to Lisa to finish.
Thank you so much, Abby. I'm actually going to finish with a quote from our CTO, our Chief Technology Officer. It couldn't be here today with us, but this was from a presentation he did very shortly, and I love this phrase, so I wanted to include it. Not that anybody's doubting the future of DRT, but I think it is key that we bear in mind that all of this basically hangs on the power of DRT to aggregate the power and using what we call the pre-booked trips to ensure aggregation and make sure that we have some element of cost efficiency, of operational efficiency, and actually, contrary to popular belief, having a more simplified and less tech-crazy approach can actually improve the customer experience. So a little bit like what Katie said, so we start with people, we end with people. So just bearing in mind that taking a sensible approach, a simplified approach, and always bearing in mind who are our actually end users. And that's all from us today. Thank you.